Hi, are you tired of arguments? Stop arguing and start living your marriage the way it's meant to live. I'm going to help you get there. I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. I'm going to help you get there. Then I'm going to teach you a technique in communication. Now, this communication technique isn't going to solve your whole marriage, but I'll teach you after that some next steps that you can take. So let's get into this whole concept of arguing. It's taken for granted that when you're married, you argue. You know, I love watching these old-time comedians. All of them goof on their wives and even their husbands, and they always talk about arguing. And I don't know, you're not as old as I am, but there used to be a TV program called The Honeymooners. It was all based on arguments. And this is what everyone thinks marriage is all about, which is ironic because when you met your soulmate, what did you experience? You experienced a connection like you had never experienced before. You fell in love. You said, this is the one. He's the one. She's the one. And you thought your love would grow and grow and grow. What happened? I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. You know, and the interesting thing is I line this out as the number one killer of marriages, over-familiarity. What does that mean, over-familiarity? Well, some people go, oh, you mean you start taking your spouse for granted? Yes, that is one of the parts of over-familiarity. It goes deeper than that. But look at it this way. Let's say you're meeting with your pastor or you're meeting with someone important in the city, maybe even the mayor, and they say something to you. You're not going to argue with them because you respect them, you see, and you don't want to mess up your communication with them. So what you do is you don't argue and you listen out what they have to say. And maybe you don't agree with them, but you listen. And maybe you'll wait for something that they say that you can talk to them about. And this is where we go to the technique I'm going to teach you. It's called the buffet technique for communication. When people speak, they never just have one topic and they stay narrow on that topic and that's all they're talking about. No, they lay out their ideas on a table, on a buffet. And you have this idea here and that idea and that idea. And what we normally do because of human nature is we find the one that gets us mad, that we don't like, and we go zero in on that topic, and that's the one we want to argue about. So the technique is to be quiet, let them get all of their thoughts out on the table, and then instead of picking the one that bugs you, pick the one that you can find common ideas about and start talking about that. Why? Because you're married in order to experience the harmony, the love, the joy. So if you go to the topic that is contrary, you're going to become parted. You're going to go apart. But if you pick the one that you can have harmony on, it's going to bring you together. Your heart will open. Your happiness will come. Their happiness will come. And that's what it's all about. Okay? Now, if you have a comment, leave it in the comment section. If you want to ask a question, leave that in the comment section. And now let's get into what are your next steps. When I started healing marriages, it was in 2001 when I was a divorce mediator, and a couple came to me in order to get a divorce, but they didn't want one. And both of them cried and said, Mr. Friedman, can you help us stay together? You're a communications expert. I really liked the counselor who sent them to me. She was very, very good. But she announced that this marriage was dead on arrival, so I thought, let's give it a try. And you know what? I started looking into marriage and I discovered things about marriage I had no idea existed. For instance, marriage is a purposeful entity. We get married in order to experience happiness, and we get happiness by experiencing love. And so the last thing we want to do is point out each other's flaws. The last thing we want to do is be critical of one another. The one thing we want to do is be completely marriage friendly. And no one ever teaches us how to do that. I spent 8 years working with individuals and couples developing what is a science around marriage. Because like everything else in this universe, there's a mechanical component to marriage. And so I created these teachings based on universal principles, living morally, which, believe it or not, is not as essential as living lovingly. That's the most important thing to do. And I'll teach you step by step. We have online courses now, one for men, one for women, and I take you step by step. It doesn't matter how bad your marriage is now. And your husband or your wife, you don't even want them to know you're taking this necessarily. You're doing this because you want to heal your marriage. And one of the things that I discovered, which of course is not the trend these days, is that it literally works better when you work on saving your marriage solo. They could sign up for their course later on. It's discounted. But for now, just get your course. Go for it. There's plans for as low as less than $10 a week. So it's not going to put a big bite into your budget. You might have to sacrifice a couple of lattes a week. But we're talking about your marriage here. I'm Paul Friedman. I'm so glad that you stopped by. If you have a question you want to ask, shoot it over to us. God bless you and take care.